Money Laundering 101. What is money laundering? Money laundering is the process of concealing the origin of illegally obtained funds. The term refers to the steps that criminals or other bad guys take to make their dirty money look clean. But how exactly do they do this? Well, that's what we're going to find out in today's video. Welcome to our channel, the place where future billionaires come to get inspired. The first thing that we have to understand about money laundering is that it is not just a crime committed by drug dealers and mobsters. This is because the source of the funds can be literally anything. For example, the proceeds from human trafficking, illegal ad revenue from YouTube videos, insurance fraud, bribery, insider trading, terrorist financing, war profiteering, extortion, piracy, embezzlement, financial scams, identity theft, online scams, credit card fraud, bank fraud, counterfeiting, smuggling, gambling, drug trafficking, or any other criminal activity, just to name a few. As you can see, there are countless ways to make dirty money. So the demand for money laundering services is extremely high. But how much money are we talking about here? Well, according to the UN, criminals launder between $800 billion and $2 trillion every year, which represents 2.8% of the global GDP. For perspective, that's the equivalent of the world's 7th largest economy. So now that we know that there's a lot of dirty money out there, let's take a look at how it gets laundered. Money laundering has been around almost as long as money itself. Historians believe that it dates back to the ancient civilizations of Mesopotamia and Rome. These days, however, it's mostly done through 3 stages: placement, layering, and integration. Placement is the first stage of the money laundering process where the criminals put the dirty money into circulation. The goal is to move the cash away from the criminal and into some sort of legitimate business or investment. In this stage, the criminal will try to blend in with everyone else, so that his or her suspicious behavior does draw attention from law enforcement or financial investigators. The most common methods used for placement include buying assets like real estate, art, jewelry, or expensive items. By doing this, the criminal can use the money to buy something tangible that can be used as collateral for a loan in the future if needed. Another popular method is to deposit the money into a bank account in small amounts over a period of time. This allows the criminal to avoid triggering any alarm bells with the bank. And lastly, the criminal may invest the money into a new business, or buy shares in an existing one. This makes it more difficult to trace the money, since it is now part of a legitimate business entity. Layering. After the placement phase, the second stage of money laundering begins, which is called layering. This is when the criminal starts to move the money around in a way that makes it more difficult to track. The goal is to make the money look like it came from a legitimate source, so the criminal will start making a series of transactions that make it seem like the money was earned legally. One way to do this is to transfer the money between different bank accounts, both domestic and international. By moving the money around, the criminal is making it harder to connect the dots and see where the money really came from. Another way to layer the money is to invest it in complex financial instruments like options, futures, and derivatives. These are investments that are based on other investments, making it more difficult to trace the money back to its original source. Criminals can also use offshore accounts to layer their money. These are bank accounts that are held in countries with weak banking regulations, making it easier to hide money. The criminal may also use trusts and corporations to layer their money. This is because these entities can be used to hold assets and investments, making it harder to see who really owns them. Finally, the criminal may use cryptocurrency to layer their money. Cryptocurrencies are digital currencies that are not regulated by any government or financial institution, making them a popular choice for criminals looking to launder money. Integration. The third and final stage of money laundering is integration. This is when the criminal takes the clean money and uses it for their everyday expenses. They can now buy whatever they want without having to worry about being tracked. The criminal may use the money to buy luxury items, invest in properties, or even set up legitimate businesses. It may even bribe government officials to turn a blind eye to their activities. Basically, integration is when the dirty money is transformed into clean money that can be used for anything. Now, why is it important for us to understand how money laundering works? Well, first of all, it's just interesting to know how criminals operate. But more importantly, it helps us to be aware of the signs of money laundering so that we can report any suspicious activity to the authorities. Additionally, it's crucial to understand how money laundering works to protect ourselves from falling victim to financial scams or other forms of fraud. By being informed, we can better safeguard our own financial security and help to create a safer society for everyone. Let's take a look at a few examples of money laundering. Example No. 1. Pablo Escobar. When he was alive, Pablo Escobar was the wealthiest drug dealer in the world. At the peak of his career, he was earning an estimated $420 million per week, which adjusted to inflation is over $900 million per week. That's roughly the same as Apple's net income for the same period. Now, how do you launder hundreds of millions of dollars every week? Well, Escobar had a few tricks up his sleeve. One of his main methods was to set up fake companies that seemed legitimate, but were actually just used to launder money. He would then deposit the drug money into these fake companies and use them to buy assets like real estate and businesses. He would then sell those assets and use the proceeds to fund more drug operations. Escobar also used his vast network of corrupt officials to help him launder money. For example, he bribed politicians and police officers to turn a blind eye to his activities. Additionally, Escobar used complex international banking systems to move money around the world, making it difficult to track. Through these methods, Escobar was able to clean billions of dollars over the years and became one of the wealthiest men in Colombia. Example number 2. Bernie Madoff. Bernie Madoff is one of the most infamous white-collar criminals of all time. His investment scheme was the largest in history, defrauding investors of an estimated $65 billion. Now, how did he get away with it for so long? Well, one of the reasons was that he was able to use his investors' money to pay off earlier investors, giving the impression that his investment scheme was successful. This is a form of money laundering called Ponzi scheme. In addition, Madoff used complex investment strategies to hide his fraud. For example, he claimed to use sophisticated computer algorithms to generate returns for his investors, but in reality, he was just using money from new investors to pay off older ones. Madoff was eventually caught and sentenced to 150 years in prison, but not before he had laundered tens of billions of dollars. Example number 3. Al Capone. Back in the day, Al Capone was the most feared gangsters in America. During the Prohibition era, he made a fortune selling illegal alcohol and was said to have earned around $60 million per year, which adjusted to inflation is over $1.6 billion per year. Now, how did he launder all that money? Well, one of his main methods was to bribe government officials. For example, he bribed police officers and politicians to look the other way when he was transporting illegal alcohol. Capone also used violence and intimidation to maintain control of his illegal empire. This allowed him to operate without fear of interference from law enforcement. Additionally, Capone used complex accounting methods to hide his illegal income. For example, he kept detailed records of his expenses, but not his income. This made it difficult for investigators to track where his money was coming from. Eventually, Capone was caught and sentenced to 11 years in prison for tax evasion, but not before he had laundered millions of dollars. If you want to learn more about money and how it works, check out our video, How Much Does It Cost to Start a Country? We'll see you there.